You are listening to Structured by Design, conversations about living in a hierarchical relationship.
In Mexico, for like 99% of the households, you either are serving a household or you have someone serving your household, right? Like, just the way it was. So for me, I always have a tough time with the topic of providing and accepting service because I guess I'm too close. I grew up with it. So I've never quite understood the difficulty of accepting service. Now I will say, maybe if it's someone that's not mine, you know what I mean? If it's someone that's not mine, then I'm not necessarily okay accepting service for certain things, you know, like.
So then maybe the role of giving and receiving service would be better to talk about opposed to providing and accepting service.
Well, doesn't that depend on what type of dynamic you have? In that discussion on Thursday, it was the struggle with the dynamic. The gentleman is from
Your boyfriend?
He's very casual, very laid back. If you want something to drink, you get up and get it yourself, even if there are submissives or slaves around.
In his house? Or
When they're out at their lunch, whatever, you just get up and you go get what you want. And his thing is that why can't? Because he described how we do it here. You know, when we hang out, I said, well, when the crew hang out, it's usually the slaves who are getting up and getting stuff. It's not because we don't know where the shit is. It's because if we say no, it makes them feel a different way. Because it's part of what they do. It's part of what works for them. And he's like, no, that's wrong. He almost had a shit fit. So the
he
principal
said it's wrong. It's not the way they do it, even if they do have.
No, he said it's wrong because if he was with his clique and he wanted something to drink and he asked one of the slaves to get it, they would say, what's wrong with you? Can't you get it yourself?
His own or somebody else's?
I don't know.
I think even it's a possibility his own would be looking at.
Yeah.
See, for me, the way we work things, if we were like, everybody's getting their own stuff, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I wouldn't be flipping a table or anything. But I also think that if someone told me, oh no, we hang out with other groups that have slaves or submissives, but when we hang out with a clique, nobody asks their own to get it. They get up and do it themselves. My response to them would be, well, maybe you could be the first. Because sometimes it is awkward. Sometimes you're in a room with other people and you're dealing with social standards, general vanilla social standards. Do kind of require you to get your own ass up and get your own shit.
But it's also the standard that if you're in the vanilla setting and you're with your mate, 40 fingers, it's okay for you to say, would you get me something to drink?
I agree with you. It's not like anybody would stand in shock and awe if you asked your mate, like, hey, can you go get me a beer?
Right.
It's just, I'm sorry.
But I do think that sometimes it's almost like an icebreaker. Someone needs to break the ice and be the first one to tell their slave or sub or whatever to get them a drink or get them food. And then other people can be like, oh, that's totally okay here. My question would be for that person would have been if their slave gets them shit when they're at home in private. Because if the answer is no, then why am I having this conversation with you? Because I'm obviously having this conversation with the wrong person. But if their answer is yes, then I would feel like what's stopping them is the lack of an icebreaker. I wouldn't be surprised if after the first person started doing it, everybody else would feel like, oh, this is actually acceptable, and start doing it.
But if you're at... Go ahead, Miss Katie.
I find it interesting because W can't be no vanilla-ish. She is so damn vanilla, but she will... We're out in general. Get my plate automatically and ask me if I want something to drink, because even though we are roommates, that's part of the role. What he's saying is, why can't I get up and get my own stuff? I can, but if I do that, I'm going to get looks that will kill. From Artie and Erin, I get looks that will kill. If
I get up and get my own shit every once in a while.
Yes, that is
yes.
true. I don't think that was. I think what it is.
I don't
that,
think it's like taboo for us to get our own shit.
No, it's not.
It's what I think it's like what I talk about, like, and I think I've said it before on the podcast, I may be repeating myself, but like, in teaching they talk about teachable moments, which are moments that are not necessarily created for education, but if you're smart enough and pay attention enough, you can take advantage of it and use it for education. And I think of the same way with MS. There are mastership moments, right? And there are slavery moments. And there are just moments in life that can help develop your mastership or slavery. But you could easily pass them by, right? I see that as that type of situation where you could get your own drink and your own dinner, but you're passing up an opportunity to both hone your craft a little better, because I do consider my mastership a skill set, that does sort of get better with practice and get better, with different experiences.
That's why I wanted to ask him while I was trying to listen. I understand his DS. I wanted to know what that meant, because if I understood what it meant to him, where if it's only during the weekend.
There is an open thing of ranch dressing in the fridge. Do you want to choose that? Do you want a raspberry or cranberry vinegar?
You're not just giving me like salad and vegetables because I said
I'll choose.
the creamy one.
I know you want that creamy one, sir. Because if I could have found out, if he would have talked more, if he was, what DS means to
he's
him.
learning.
Well, then if he's learning, then I have an issue now, because
He's meshing MS and DS because he's trying to figure out where he's at. Because when I first met this person, I was the old school one. Oh yeah, but he's learning, and it's really good. He's been in the lifestyle in real life for 5 years, so he has learned a lot from the first day that I met him. He's learned a lot, but he's mixing. I think the struggle is he's mixing switching and DS and MS. He's meshing them together, meshing all of this stuff together because he wants to do it his own way, and he's finding struggles with that.
well, that's what I was trying to. That's why I wish I could have said to him, because I understand that he wants to do it his own kind of way. But you have to first learn a way before you do it your way. So learn a skill first, and then put your own spin on it. Because it sounds to me like he wants to learn about DS, which is great. He wants to learn about MS, which is fine. He wants to learn about BDSM, which is okay too, which he keeps calling the relationship, which kept confusing me. You have to be on a path, pick a path, learn some of it, and then put your own spin on it. I could see that happening with him putting his own spin on it. But if you're trying to do it all at the same time, when he said, I will never be MS because of what you're saying. Well, you don't know that because you're not doing MS. It's like saying, I don't like beats, but I've never tried a beat. I was wondering, even though he has come a long way, maybe that's what it is for me.
And I'll be honest, I may have to tap out of the conversation just because I think I'm having similar issues to what Sir Raven is saying. For me, whenever people start talking about DS, there's a reason why I don't do DS. I do play partners, and DS is just too confusing for me. It's too vague, and there's too many questions. So that's the thing, is like, the second you said this person was DS, I'm like, oh, well, who the fuck knows? For all I know, it's like, that means that he gets to, like, use, like, silk handcuffs in bed. Or he gets to be like, and she doesn't go, no, my throat hurts.
No, they don't meet until.
I'm sorry, what?
Did you see his face?
They haven't met? I'm confused as to where the drinks come in.
Because he goes to real life lunches.
So not with his partner.
No, he goes in general, but no one. Everybody gets up and gets their own.
Okay, so with that, I don't necessarily see a problem, because that's people are doing their own shit. I would suggest to him that when he finally be able to ask for a physical drink from his partner, that he may want to actually do that while at that event. Just because everybody else doesn't mean that he can't. And if he feels like he's going to feel weird, then welcome. When I started NYCTNG, one of the things that I first started with Ross and Martha, and part of the reason why I started with them was because literally they were the only other people my age that I was seeing out in the scene at the time. Because I got into the scene at a pretty low point in the New York City scene. So literally, what would happen is I would see other people my age, and then they would never come back because they only saw me, right? And I guess but Ross I would consistently see, and then Ross would also go to Mass. So I'd be like, hey, I know you, hey, I know you. And that's sort of how we started. But one of the things that was interesting was that when I first started at YCTNG, I actually thought that part of one of the benefits of starting at NYCTNG was that I was going to meet a ton of other people who were into MS and who played the way I play, right? One of the things that I was surprised about when I started at NYCTNG, that's when I realized that I was a subgroup of a subgroup, right? And like I'm a niche of a niche, and that's what MS is. If you're expecting to become the norm in your community, I hate to break it to you, that's not going to happen. And if you can't handle being a little different than everybody else, then I don't know if you should be making your own household. Part of making your own household is that you get to sort of make it your own world. And there is a certain point where you get to be like, you know what? It's my household, and that's it. If you have to be that concerned about the way other people are, I don't know if you would have the mental fortitude to keep your household the way you want it, despite all the things telling you not to.
Well, I also think that even though in that dynamic they switch, him and his mate switch roles whenever. And one of the things that was said when I did Dominic class that you can't do MS like that, or you can't do DS like that. Well, yeah, you can. Because if they sat down and said, you're the head of the household, or I'm the head of the household, whether we're switching or not, these are the protocols that must be followed, whether I'm the dominant that day, or whether I'm the submissive that day. If there is a solid foundation, it doesn't matter how they're switching on it, that's their thing. But the protocols are put in place that even if he is the submissive that day, those protocols set the tone of how it's going to be. So you can do that if that's what you choose to do. And it doesn't mean that the protocols change because she's dominant that day or because he's. No, there has to be a neutral line of protocols that's followed regardless of what role you're in. And that's not hard to do.
So, I think I need a little clarification. When you say switching, you mean authority-wise or who gets hit?
No, authority-wise.
That's why I was asking, because BDSM-wise, I don't know if I agree about authority-wise. Who's creating the rules? If the rules are being created together in a way that everybody's agreeing with the rules, then isn't it at that point egalitarian? And if they're not, then who's enforcing the rules when only one person is happy with the rules? You know what I mean? I'm saying with all the rules. Because usually you're happy with most of the rules. That's why people stick around. But very, very rarely is someone happy with all the rules. Unless you're the one that's making the rules. And then even then, that means you're 99% happy with all the rules. Because some of them fuck with you, you know?
I thought you should make the BDSM part when you said switching. Because he kept talking, it sounded to me like he was saying BDSM is a relationship. Which it is. When you're talking top and bottom.
Right. But he's not top and bottom.
So, I know you guys can't really answer the question, but I would want to talk to him a little more. Only because you brought up the dress thing. If not, I would want to talk to both of them a little more. But sometimes people associate certain things and make connections with other things. And so I'm wondering.
He's not gender fluid.
Oh, okay.
He's gender fluid. He's definitely not sissy.
Oh, the way you mentioned the dress, you made it sound like it was part of the submission part. So
no,
that's why I was.
I was just
okay.
saying.
Oh, okay.
Some days
that's,
when he
that's
says
why I brought it
dress,
up. Oh, okay. No, I didn't realize he was gender fluid. Oh, then the
so
dress is
some
part of being
days
gender fluid.
on his vet life, he's dressed in both mannerisms. So it's something he practices in his real life.
Okay. So I misunderstood. Because I was thinking one of the things with her was she constantly considered herself a little. And I never quite believed in this. What really ended up happening was that she grew up in a household where the arts was basically what you did as a child, right?
Uh-huh.
So for her to be someone who's in the arts, right, like, must have meant for her, because of her upbringing, sort of required for her to be a child to do that. Like the idea of being an adult who paint or an adult who's into some kind of art and craft was just not in their family, right? Not in their upbringing.
Okay.
So that's why I was kind of asking, because some people will make connections like that, where, you know, well, if I like this activity, it must mean straight guys do this shit all the time. They're into pegging, so it must mean that they're submissive, right? And you're like, no, dude,
Just like
you
shit
just
in your
like
ass.
you just like shit in your ass. Good on you. You know? So, yeah, if they change authority-wise, I'm not sure how that is possible to have an MS.
I could understand it only because it was explained to me. I was like, I don't understand that MS switch. But then it was explained to me that it's not done in the relationship. So you're the master, I'm the slave, but I have a slave over here. And then I'm the master. So it's not in our relationship. Which
And that's totally cool. And that's actually gone on for years.
I could understand. But I don't understand it if we're doing it in the same space. Doing the MS part,
But
the DS part.
in real life, or even on vet life, I've seen it where it is two individuals who have identified as switches, and they are together in a dynamic, and it's been MS, and it works for them. But you can't really say anything if they're saying it works for them.
No, not.
But
Well,
with,
I'm only.
Yes and no,
still thinking
because-
that, okay.
And you're gonna act about like, because it works for them is constantly the excuse for people who are claiming to be certain things but are doing something totally different. It works for them. As a response
I know,
for
but-
shit that comes up. I have no problem with people doing shit that works for them. I have a problem with people who do something different that works for them, but insist on calling it something that it's not. Just, and in a way, it's almost like part of the problem is just it's not a fucking contest. Like, just say it's not a mess and just
Yeah,
be
but-
done. You know.
what if they don't like labels on top of it?
So that's cool, but then why are they in a conversation that's about labels? At that point, I would be like, absolutely, you do whatever you want at home, but then why are you here right now?
This is my struggle with that. You do it at home and you bring it in the community. Well, this is the way I look at it from the virtual platform. You're bringing what you do behind closed door, you're bringing it into the community, and you're saying that everybody has to be accepting of what you're doing, when it kind of throws everything that I stand for. No.
Okay, now we're gonna do the drinking game. Yeah, it's just like having a fucking kinky boyfriend and calling it MS. It's having a kinky boyfriend and calling it DS.
Yeah,
So
I didn't want to. I actually was trying to avoid going there. It almost sounds like roleplay at that point.
And that's
what
fine.
What day do you want to do what? And there's nothing
That is
wrong with that.
fantastic. Yes.
That is totally fucking
Yes.
cool. I am totally okay with you doing that. The same way I'm totally okay with the other person being the fucking fireman one day and the policeman the next. You know, totally cool. But it's not the same thing.
And then it becomes an issue when, like you said, you bring it out into the real world this is what we do, and people giving you the side eye. It's not those people. It might be you.
The last thing on top of that, he doesn't care what, he's not there for the community. And my point that I bring to him, you do something stupid, whether you're here for the community or not, you get locked up for doing something stupid. It reflects the community whether you like it or not. So really, whatever it is that you're doing out in the community, you are affecting the community whether you want to own it or not.
Because where else are you going to do this?
Exactly.
I mean, you can only do it in this particular community.
It affects the community, but I actually disagree that means you have to consider yourself part of the community. Or you have to do that. You might disagree with me, but that's like saying that every black person has to walk around thinking of how they're going to represent every other black person. When a black person gets arrested, they're like, oh man, another fucking, those black people, man, shooting each other up all the time or whatever, right? And you're like, no, that guy shooting that guy.
But I think what Master Kaden is saying, which I can agree with, if you come out into the community and do what you do, but don't want to be associated with the community, then go to the movie theater and do that.
So I think we're talking about two different things. Because my other example was going to be in the gay community. Not every gay person wants to be walking around with a banner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or every trans person doesn't want to be walking around with the banners. Some people just want to be at home doing what they do and not actually make it part of a thing for them. That doesn't mean that their actions when they fuck up won't be associated with it, but it does mean that I do think that people have the right to not have that. That being said, it brings me back to my previous point. Then what are you doing in this room? Because the second you walked into this door, you just became part of the community.
I'm trying to
whether you like it or not, because you walked through this door. If you don't want to be part of this community, that's like me saying, I don't want to be associated with Master Caden, but I'm gonna fucking sit here and eat my chicken right now. If the cops walked in right now and they were like, everybody's arrested for whatever she's got behind those blinds, I don't think they'd go with me being like,
I'm just here for the chicken?
yeah, I don't think they'd buy, oh no, I got nothing to do with those two over there in the room. They'd be like, you're eating chicken and sitting on the couch, drinking the beer.
Right.
Kind of part of it.
Exactly.
You know, like.
Exactly. I totally understand.
That is one of the things I struggle with trying to make clear. That your benefit off of what people died for, and you were making it your own, and that's fine. Make it your own.
Yes.
That's fine. Mm-hmm. But when you say labels are not important, but I'm this, and this is how I'm doing this, and you're putting it out there in the community, it kind of puts it out there in the community. Yeah. So someone walking through the door that's new, which happens a lot, in that virtual platform, is more confused than what they was before they came in. Mm-hmm. And the idea is to give them some understanding of things, and go in the direction you want.
Right.
Exactly. Do the thing, but get the knowledge first, so you can make really good decisions for yourself and how you want to practice your dynamic.
Exactly. If you are not even putting in the work to learn something or to have some kind of focus, you can say it works for you, but if you have a
and to be honest, I think that's what bothers me the most, that your feelings are going to be hurt. I'm not actually trying to put a judgment on it. I'm just trying to tell you that what you're doing is not what you're calling it.
Right. Exactly.
You know, like,
exactly.
I'm just trying to tell you that right now, the words that are coming out of your mouth make you sound like a dumbass. And maybe if you use different vocabulary, you would be able to do the same exact shit and have everybody go, oh, okay, yeah, cool.
Right.
Like,
Exactly. I think that, but then that would fall under the whole label thing.
But that, again, for me, is part of why they may struggle with receiving service as well. Because they feel, this is it.
Well, that's why I said I don't want to, I want to quote you.
Sorry, if you say I don't want to label myself, I just go, okay, cool. And then I figure that you're doing whatever your own shit over there is. But if you get upset at me saying that you're not MS, or you're not DS, or then you can't turn around and say you don't like labels, because apparently they mattered enough for you to get pissed off at me telling you what you're not. You know?
Right.
The other thing we were talking about I don't know what happens in DS, but I hear a lot that the dominant has to be 100% transparent, just like the submissive does. And I state clearly, in my MS, no, I am 80% transparent.
And
Trust me,
I disagree with that.
80%. That's a nice number. No, I'm not 80%.
Yeah,
I'm going to do it. But I'm 80% transparent. If it's a goal I really need for them to achieve and invest in themselves, I'm not going to tell them what I want to see. I need for them to go through their journey to get to that point, so then they take ownership and they're invested in it. And they move on. If that didn't transpire with Slave X, they wouldn't be where they are today. So the thought the other person had was, I feel guilty if I'm not 100%, if I can't. I'm like, what do you mean you feel guilty? If you're not psychologically, mentally, emotionally, or physically hurting them, and it's something that you need or want to surprise them with, then no, you should not be transparent about it. Part of that control thing is not having to be or feel guilty about not being transparent about something you want to happen that is best for them. They learn from it. It's something for them.
And then I felt like having the wife again, having that kind of relationship where it's like, would you do this, or I want this done, but then you have to give the reasons why. It felt to me like it's always based on why I'm telling you that you're going to actually do it, opposed to you just doing it. Trusting and just doing it. So if I have to tell you the outcome of it, I might as well have a wife.
Because, like I said in that discussion, there are nights that I just have, I don't know, I wake up and I have these things that I want done. And I know that their plates are full. I'm calling, and they already know if I'm calling at 9:30 in the morning, whatever they had on their plate, what they thought they were going to be doing, it ain't happening.
Right.
I'm telling you, this is what I need to be done, and I need for you to do it yesterday. I don't have to say why I need for you to stop.
And you as a slave might be able to say, well, if I won't be able to do X, Y, and Z, of course you already know that when you pick up the phone, but thank you for telling me, get that done. Because you already know that certain things aren't going to get done. But you're making that call. You're making the judgment call on that.
Were you saying you were for more transparency or less transparency?
No, I don't feel that I need to be 100% transparent
Gotcha.
with my
Okay.
girls. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Because then I'll turn around and ask, you want to know what's going on in my head? I don't think you want to know what's going on in my head. I got 4 of y'all. No, you don't want to know what's going on in my head.
I kind of disagree with two of you.
What are you disagreeing about?
The whole transparency.
Oh, yeah. I
But I-
disagreed with her.
But I think the reason why I disagree is because I may have a different definition of transparency. Because like when you were talking about like with a wife, I was like, what? At first I was like, no, I'm pretty transparent. But then once you were talking about explaining why every time before something gets done, I'm like, that's not about being transparent. That's just about efficiency. I can tell you about why later on if you really
No, the way
like if later on you're like, hey, why did you have me do that? I didn't understand that. I'd probably tell you unless there's a reason why I wouldn't tell you because it doesn't bother.
But could that be because it's only one person involved? For me, it's more than one person involved. My level of transparency, goal of the house, this is what needs to be done, and this is why it needs to be done like this. But if it's on a personal dynamic aspect, and I need for them to grow in an area, no, I'm not going to be fully transparent. You're saying efficiency. It's not efficiency to me. Because one of mine is extremely efficiency. It has nothing to do with that. I'm not telling you exactly what the outcome is that I'm looking for from you. Because you're doing really well at finding it right now.
Oh, okay.
I said the thing about the wife because he feels guilty about keeping information and gave the example of him wanting her to do something and him not wanting to tell her because it was a surprise. But he was feeling guilty, and I'm like, why do you have to hold this other thing out to say you want this done and here's the outcome in order for them to do the thing that you can just say, do this thing. Because he was
So
like,
it's
I
total-
feel guilty right now just talking about it. I'm like, in the example?
So
Guilty?
that's a lot. Maybe I don't have enough guilt. Maybe I should. Maybe I could go with a little more guilt in my life. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's the difference in definitions there. Because if I was trying to get Roseanne to learn something, because I don't even think it's a matter of one. Because once you start talking about more than one, I thought you were going somewhere else. I thought you were talking about sharing your thoughts on other people with everybody else in the house. And I'm like,
No.
but I think telling someone I want you to learn something is transparent. At least for me. You know what I mean? Like, why are you having me do this? Because I want you to learn something yet. I totally agree with you, because sometimes you worry that if I tell you the outcome I want, then you just do that, and you're not actually going to gain anything, which, to be honest, the only reason why we're doing this in the first place was for you to actually gain something.
Right. So that be my thing when I say transparent. I want you to invest in it. I will direct you where you need to go, but you need, when we have that conversation later, specific things that I'm expecting to hear if you've invested it, because then you were able to develop your own baseline. I was doing X, Y, and Z. I learned that if I do this instead, because I'm a big person on baselines, you know where you're at.
It's alright. It wasn't just you. I'm good.
But that's what makes everything with that situation so interesting. I'm just going to say it's their journey. The journey is confusing themselves within their own journey. That's when it can become harmful to both parties.
Mm-hmm.
If you come from the school thought, well, I'm going to make it up as I go along. I know a lot of people do that, but I can't say I agree with that.
I don't actually have a problem with people making it up as they go along. I do have a problem with people who are making it up as they go along to expect to be holding their own against people who are choosing to actually stand on the shoulders of the people before them. You know what I mean? Like, it would be like learning. Whenever I teach a class, I tell people, basically, the two ways to really learn the class just gives you an idea of what's there. But really, you either go shadow someone who knows what they're doing and learn from them, or you can go home and learn yourself from trial and error. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to remember that if you're learning with fire through trial and error, that means there's going to be errors, and fire kind of burns, and you're going to get burnt. I know people who somebody had to learn from trial and error in the first place. And there always have to be someone that can learn from trial and error. It's not like it's impossible to learn from trial and error. But you can't expect to walk out unscathed. You're going to walk out with some bruises and bumps and burns. And you can't expect to walk out with your trial and error in 3 months and be as good at your skill as someone who chose to not go the trial and error way. Because all those errors, while you learn from your errors, they're still stumbling blocks. They're still taking time. The person you're saying, been in the scene for 5 years, I'd be willing to put money down that I could put somebody else who's been around for 5 years who didn't do the trial and error way. And you'd be like, holy fuck, they're like twice as far as they are, right? They figured that shit out like twice, they're so much farther along because they're not fucking, because
Trial and erroring it.
Right, they're not trial and erroring it. Every time you trial and error it, every time you have an error, you have to first of all pick your ass up from that error, fucking lick your wounds, figure out what went wrong, and then fix it.
Right,
By the end of all that's a lot of time.
When you can just have someone who may be mentoring you or you're shadowing, who you can discuss that error with, so that you have a discussion about that error.
Even if that shadowing or discussion is a fucking book, but at least looking at what other people are doing.
I think that's the great thing about having a mentor.
The thought about mentors when it comes to that particular platform is, I try to explain there's different types of mentors. You have the mentor where you sit and you just chat. You have mentors where it's almost like formal training. You're going to do what they tell you to do, when they tell you to do it, how they tell you to do it, and what time it needs to be done by. That's a problem in that particular platform, because I'm not.
Submissive.
Now I
If
get
you're
that.
in college going to school, does that make you submissive if you're learning from a professor? I mean, that person has more knowledge than you. Sit down, take your book out, and get it done. So if that's the
Just hold your
excuse,
mouth for 30 minutes.
if that's the excuse that that person's giving to not have forward motion, because I was listening to the conversation, I heard that you had said, want that, but they're only holding themselves back. I kind of wanted to tell you, but I couldn't. I mean, I could have turned on my mic and you could have heard me, but I couldn't do that. Stop begging for this mofo to get your knowledge. I understand you are a teacher. Once I heard this is the third time I'm going to ask you this or make myself available again, my thing is like,
Yeah.
if they don't want it, they just don't want it.
The biggest reason why
But they don't
I
want
did
it
that.
now. They know the door's open. They can come back to you.
Yes, they can, but they acting like I will never. I am never doing that. I'm like, never say never, but okay.
Because really, the only thing that I really have for them is that stop, just stand still, and then just look at all of the things that you're trying to do at one time. Have you learned any concrete skills in anything? Because you're not focusing at things, maybe two things at a time, or one thing at a time. Get that straight, then move on to the next thing, and then the next thing, and you'll find out you'll be less confused, and it would leave you a way for the both of y'all to understand how you want to sing.
To be honest, I would just have asked them, have they read anything?
You have been listening to Conversations About Living in a Hierarchical Relationship.